Okay, we're ready to tackle preferences. And preferences can get a little bit involved, but no worries because I will walk you through that step by step. So head on over to Google Earth Pro menu and click on Preferences. The first tab is the 3D view, and under texture colors I would always leave it 32-bit. There's never a reason with today's computers to go lower than that. And isotropic filtering. What that basically is how clear is the distant horizon at a low camera angle. I always leave it on medium. I have not really detected a difference between medium and high. Just leave it there on medium. Labels and icon size. Now I have mine on medium, but I may actually start playing around with large. In fact, I'm going to change that right now. With videos in 4K, you will find that the icons and label sizes get pretty small. So I'm going to play around with large going forward. Actually, we'll see how that turns out. Graphics mode. Use safe mode. I'll cover that more in the advanced training, so you'll want to check that out for the use of the safe mode. Show lat long is pretty self-explanatory. It's just what kind of format do you want to see your positional coordinates in. I leave mine with degrees, minutes, seconds, but I really don't even use it. So in the Google Earth videos. Okay, units of measurement, imperial versus metric, your choice, or choose the system default. I never really mess with 3D fonts. I would leave that as it is. Elevation exaggeration. Let me show you what it is if it isn't 1. Its default is 1, but let's change it to 3, the maximum, and I'm going to hit OK. And you will see here what happens in the image here, and it's taken a minute to render, but you can kind of get a view already. The mountains in the background have really gotten a lot higher. As you can expect, it's the exaggeration of the elevation. So if you have maybe some more mundane looking topography, maybe you want to tweak that up just a little bit. I wouldn't take it all the way up to 3 because that looks pretty funny. It's even taken a while to render the buildings here, the resort buildings, so I wouldn't do that. Let's go back to preferences, and let's knock that back down to 1. Use high quality terrain. I would obviously check that, and I would use 3D imagery. On the atmosphere, this experimental photorealistic atmosphere rendering is kind of interesting. I'll show you what it does. I don't particularly care for it. As you can see, it kind of turns everything kind of more realistic looking, actually, as if you were flying around in an airplane, and you can really start to see it. It just kind of adds a little bit of haze to the overall look. If we turn it off and go back to normal, I think that's a better way to see the detail in the landscape. Your choice, obviously, but making it kind of hazy makes it difficult to see what's going on. Okay, back to preferences. The overview map I don't really ever mess with, so I would just leave that at the default. One thing to keep in mind with these preferences is you can always restore defaults, and if your settings get whacked out for some reason and you need to kind of re-baseline, just hit that restore defaults and you'll be back to normal. Okay, that's it for 3D view. Cache I will cover in the advanced training because there's significant impacts with cache, so I'll cover that then. Okay, here we are. We've arrived. Touring preferences, quite frankly, is probably the window or the tab that you will spend more time on than any other feature when creating your Google Earth videos. It's a very iterative process. Tweak, go see what the impact is, go tweak again, see what the impact is, go back and forth, and eventually you'll get the look of the video that you're really after. In the advanced training, I will cover some techniques that will make your lives much, much easier as you go through the setting of the parameters within the touring preferences. From the way that you plan your trips to the way that you set up your angles of viewing and so forth. I'll cover a lot of that in the advanced training. But I'm going to cover some basics here because they're important. Again, we talked about tours earlier and what they are. I'm going to go into a lot more detail with tours, some nuances in the tours that you need to be aware of in the advanced training. But you remember we started from Coeur d'Alene Resort, then we went to Spokane Falls, and then we went all the way around the globe to Hong Kong. That was a tour, and these are the settings that you can change to make that tour look slightly different in the way that it's viewed. So several different sections: when creating a tour from a folder, when creating a tour from a line, and when creating a tour from a track, and then when recording a tour. Now, let's talk about when recording a tour. I would always recommend a higher fidelity. If you wanted to do some test footage and not take up so much space, that maybe just a test video that maybe you wanted to send to a client, you could make it a smaller file and take up less space, but you wouldn't want that in your final result. So keep that at higher fidelity. The preferences for creating a tour from a folder. So time between features and wait at features. It's fairly self-explanatory, but let's make sure anyway. So just to show you, I've created a folder here called 7 Wonders of the World. And let's get back out and take this tour. So I'm going to click on the folder, and more on folders and more details within my places later. But I'm going to click on the folder and play the tour, and you just watch it. So there's Machu Picchu, Taj Mahal, Great Pyramid of Giza, going way too fast. It's taking 2 seconds between each feature, and when it stops at a feature, it only waits half a second. So let's improve that. Let's go back into Preferences, Touring. Let's bump it up to, I don't know, let's say 10 seconds between features, and let's wait at each feature for 3 seconds. So let's watch that. Hit OK and play that tour again. So again, that's taking 10 seconds. And then it's waiting for 3 seconds. Now it actually seems like it's waiting longer than 3 seconds, but it does take a few seconds to set. So there's Taj Mahal. A lot more appealing tour here. So you get the idea. I'm going to go back to 2 and 0.5 just for my own purposes later. When we tour from a route within a folder, we want to fly along the line of that route, so we want that checked. I don't really show balloons when waiting at features. It just find it to be distracting. So that's for creating a tour from a folder. Okay, next we will be tackling preferences when creating a tour from a line. So what I've done is, let's cancel this and show you where we're going to work next. I have created a line tour, which is a tour just in a straight line. Here next to the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, you can see this white line. And how I did that again is I went to Add Path, and then I clicked on one spot and then the other spot to create the line, the beginning and the end. And then I just saved it. I'm going to cancel this one since I've already created this one for the Golden Gate Bridge. Okay, so let's find out what this tour looks like with the preferences that we've already set up when creating a tour from a line. So this is the tour, very simple one. All it is in a straight line. Okay, that's the end of the tour. Now let's go back into preferences and let's change some settings here. Let's get a lot lower. Let's get around maybe 300 meters. Somewhere in there, 250 meters. Hit OK. And now let's play that same tour at a lot lower elevation or altitude. So you can see it looks like it's a lot faster because we are a lot lower, but it's actually the same speed. Okay, now let's slow that same tour down and change it to, I don't know, 80. I don't know what this number means, but it's just a scale there. So we'll hit OK and play that same tour again. And now you can see it's going much slower than it did the first time. Pretty intuitive. So let's cancel it, and now let's change the tilt angle. Let's go faster again. We'll go fast. We'll go a little bit higher. But let's change the tilt angle. You can see that there's plenty of sky in the view here, but when we change it to 65 degrees, you'll see what happens. Now we're at a lot steeper angle there. So again, it just depends on what you want to show in your perspective there. Okay, that's pretty intuitive for the 3 parameters of creating a tour from a line. Now, for when creating a tour from a track, that gets fairly complicated, and I cover that in the advanced training. You're definitely going to want to check that out, because all the touring that we've done so far is pretty boring compared to what you can create from a track. So you'll want to check that out. It's makes your videos a lot more, I guess, immersive and natural feeling. So stay tuned for that in the advanced training.